Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar. With Kimbia here, we want to talk about how to get your event on like a boss. We work with a lot of nonprofit organizations that do a very wide variety of different types of online events, in-person events, and they use Kimbia to kind of power the online fundraising for that, the registration. And so over the years, we've seen a lot of things work well, and what we wanted to talk to you today about was what it is you should be doing before your event, during your event, and after your event. So my name is Taylor Shanklin, aka T Shank. You can call me. My friends call me that. And I've been here at Kimbia for a little bit over a year. I've been in the online fundraising space for the past decade. And online fundraising is our jam. Some of my favorite things are coffee. So I've got my Kimbia coffee mug, chocolate, and digital trends. If you want to follow us on Twitter here today, tweet to us at Kimbia Inc. and tweet to me at tshank cycles. Check us out at kimbia.com. If you want a coffee mug, I've been giving these away. It's like my summer giveaway. If you're interested in chatting with us and or you just want a coffee mug, because we've got some pretty cool coffee mugs here, shoot me an email, taylor@kimbia.com, and we'll get one to you in the mail. All right, so with no further ado, let us get on our way here. So there's a lot of different types of fundraising events out there that you may or may not be doing. You may be thinking about doing something. There's in-person, actual physical events like runs, walks, rides, galas, golf tournaments, things like that. And then there's also all of these virtual events that we're doing these days with crowdfunding, with do-it-yourself peer-to-peer campaigns, with giving days. And I want to talk about the basic principles of marketing and planning and engaging for those events, because I think the basic principles really apply no matter what type of event you're doing. So if you're doing any of these or thinking about doing any of these types of events, I think these general rules of thumbs apply. So today I want to walk through some ideas, some marketing ideas for pre-event planning and engagement for things to do during event. So I think of pre-event as like, you're getting ready for a party, like you're picking out what you want to wear, right? And then during, you go to the event, you're having a good time, there's rah-rah, and you're getting your party favors. And then post-event is all about the thank you and the what to do with these people that we engaged with during our event, especially if you have new donors from your event, new people who attended your event, that sort of thing. The thank you and the post-event follow-up, I think, is often something that can get neglected. So I want to talk a lot about that at the end here today. By the way, quick housekeeping item. Kelly is on the line to answer questions. If you've got questions, type those into the questions box. She will stop me at the end and we'll have an open Q&A. But if you've got something, type that into Kelly and let us know. We will be recording this and sending out the recording and the slides afterwards. So I won't dwell on this too long, but this is kind of the pre-event planning checklist. Things I want you to be thinking about are how you can build buzz early, how you can look at last year's data and take that as a way for you to think about how you want to plan this year. Think about all of the tools that you need to have in place, not just during the event and for the event, especially if you're having an event that's a gala or a golf tournament or a run or something like that where you have a lot of logistics. There's a lot of pre-event logistics with tools and software and how you get people to engage. And then I want to talk about taking care of your sponsors and how to get them engaged as well. So this is the pre-event planning lineup. All right. I want you to imagine a time when you anticipated something, whether that was on vacation you were going to go on or a product that you wanted to buy. Maybe you were saving up for it, or an event that you're going to go to. Maybe you're training for a 5K, or you're anticipating the gala. Think about what that anticipation feels like and imagine that. I had a really slow roll there with that "it's coming" graphic coming in. Um, okay, you might be looking at the screen right now and thinking, Taylor, what does the iPhone and the "it's coming" message have to do with my events? It has to do with the idea of giving people something to look forward to, building the anticipation, making them get so excited before the event, before the thing happens, that like that period of buildup can be a lot of fun. And so I want you to look at things that happen in the world around you. Look at the way that every time Apple releases a new iPhone, they have this buildup, this anticipation, so much so that people will camp out in line days before the next iPhone comes out just to make sure they can get one. So I don't think that planning for your event is much different than that. I want you to think through ways of like, how can you build that anticipation, build that excitement, and build that buzz? I think that is one of the most important elements when thinking about marketing your event. So I want you to start thinking about how to look at last year's participation data. So questions you should be asking yourselves: who were the most engaged participants? Do you have some reporting that you can pull to find out who were most engaged last year? If it was like an event where you had people come to it, or maybe a peer-to-peer event where you had people raising money on your behalf. When was the highest registration period? Is there a spike in when you see people registering for your event or buying tickets for your gala, things like that? Ask last year's attendees to attend again. So when looking at last year's data, it's very important to see who attended last year, because you're going to want to obviously ask them to attend again. And you might want to ask them to do something a little bit differently this year. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I also want you to look at last year's data, and it doesn't even have to be just last year, but you maybe want to go 2 or 3 years back. However long you've been doing this event, go back, as many years as you can, really, that makes sense, and look at what that participant data looks like over time. Also ask yourself the hard questions. What didn't work last year? And what did work? Because you want to repeat what did work, and you don't want to repeat what didn't work. So these are sometimes, it's hard to take a step back and like ask these questions, but I think it's really, really important, and write it down. And whether it is data where you can look and you can see, well, that registration fee didn't work last year. Because maybe in years prior, you'd had like a $0 registration for your walk, and then you said, hey, let's add a registration fee of $25 for your walk. Look at the data. Did the numbers go up or down? Was there any difference? I think it's those sorts of questions and those sorts of analysis you should be thinking about while you're planning what to do for this next event. Okay, so you want to look at behavioral data like participation, attendees, registration rates, things like that. You also obviously want to look at the fundraising data and the registration dollar data. So questions to be asking yourself about last year or prior years are about donation levels. Did most gifts come in, at around the same donation levels you were asking for, above or below? If you had participants who were fundraising for your event, what was the average amount that someone raised? If you have a registration fee for your event, again, you want to look at whether you think that was too high, too low, or maybe it was just spot on. And also look at the percentage of registrants who maybe gave an additional gift. So let's say that you have a walk event that you're doing and you ask people to go and register. How many of those people are also doing a self-donation versus the amount of people that are simply just registering and going, and then fundraising. Look at the suggested fundraising goal if you have a suggested fundraising goal. So this is probably most applicable to, peer-to-peer, do-it-yourself campaigns. If you do have like a run, walk, or ride or an endurance event that you do and you're asking people to fundraise. If you have a giving day and you're asking people to, hey, try to raise $200, look at what that goal is if you've had that in the past and see how many people either met, exceeded, or failed to meet that goal. Because if the goal is not set appropriately in front of the people that you're trying to get to raise that money, maybe it's too lofty, maybe it's too low. And so if you feel like the average amount raised was far off of that goal, then that might be an indication that you should adjust something for this year. And then finally, when it comes to the data and trying things out, just plan to test, and be able to iterate. So if you're seeing something in your participant data from years prior or in the donations or registration fees data, be willing to iterate and test new things. Test it out for a little while. If it still doesn't feel like it's going well, then change it. I think one of the most important things to think about is to be agile and able to kind of like iterate and change things as you see them happening.
Hey, Taylor, we had a question come in.
Ooh, what's up?
Okay, so that was really helpful information, but what if you didn't have an event last year?
Ooh,
so what if this is your first year event?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Look to benchmark reports. There are a lot of industry benchmarks out there. In fact, we are about to release one here soon. There's a lot of interesting benchmark reports out there. Check out the M&R report. And Kelly, maybe you can type that in because that one's a really great online fundraising benchmark report that comes out every year. There's some other benchmark reports that are out there that are really good. In fact, we can maybe send a few samples out to you. We'll shoot you an email if we get your email address. So that's what I would do. I would say, look at what your peers are doing in the industry at any benchmarks that you can look at and use that as a guidepost. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
That's a really, really great question. I'm glad that you asked that. Okay. All right. So let's think about so you're looking at your data, and that's going to help answer questions as to what types of fundraising levels, donation levels, goals you should be asking people who are going to be involved in your event. It'll help kind of shape that. One thing you need to also be thinking about is how to segment and incentivize based on different groups of people. So whether someone was a team captain last year, if they're a major donor, if they are someone who maybe participated with you before but didn't raise any money, if they are maybe like a donor of someone who participated with you, if they're a local sponsor, think through all of these major audiences that you have and tailor your content to them. I know that it can be hard sometimes to find the time to do this, and you might be thinking, well, a general ask is applicable to everyone. But I think it's really, really important that people are getting the message that's appropriate to them. And you don't have to wildly change your message, right? One default ask, appeal, or initial launch message to ask people to get involved, and make little tweaks based on the group of people that you're sending it to, whether it is a past donor who didn't participate versus someone who's maybe been to your event before. Think about doing early registration promotions. So if you're using an online registration tool, or if you use Kimbia, you can do promo codes. So think about incentivizing people to get that early bird. Incentives work. They just do. There's a psychology behind it, and people like getting a deal. So incentivize people through early registration promos. incentivize people to log into their fundraising center and do some fundraising activities. So this is applicable if you have a peer-to-peer event that you're doing, whether that's a do-it-yourself campaign, like a donate your birthday campaign, or whether that's an actual like race peer-to-peer event or a run or a walk or a ride or a climb or anything like that. Get people to go to their fundraising center using the online tools that you have and incentivize them to, update their personal story, update their picture on their fundraising page, to email their friends, to share their link to their page on social. I know, again, it seems kind of like it's maybe not rocket science, but a lot of people who maybe sign up to fundraise for you for these types of events, they aren't fundraisers, so they need to be asked and told what to do. A lot of times it can be very intimidating, especially if it's their first time. So coaching them through that with ways to do that is really, really important, really helpful. Give people interval incentives. So don't just incentivize them up at the front, incentivize them throughout. We see this work really well with giving days, where you've got this, time-based 24 to 48 hour period where people need incentives to get to the next level. And that could be, hey, if we raise this much money by 12 o'clock, then we'll get this match. Or if it's a longer term campaign, like someone who might be fundraising and training for a marathon or something like that, give them lots of different incentives and intervals along the way with milestones. That can help create competition. That's really kind of what the gamification of peer-to-peer and crowdfunding and doing these events is all about. Creating that competition, creating that sense of urgency, and creating a goal for someone to look forward to. Again, that ties back to our innate desire for that anticipation of something, of getting to the next level. So it might be once you raise $100, you get a t-shirt. Once you raise $500, you get a cycling jersey. Let's say if your event is a cycling event or something like that. So think through those different incentives that you can give to people along the way. Okay, when it comes to pre-event tools, so that's kind of the strategy and the theory around what to think about in your marketing efforts and coaching and messaging going out to people that you want to be involved and you want to donate. There's a lot of tools out there too that make it easy for you to do this. We have a lot of tools like this at Kimbia. We work with a lot of different organizations, like I said, that do just a wide variety of different types of events. So you see over here on the left side of my screen an image of the University of Iowa. They do a large crowdfunding event with us every year. And over there on the screenshot, one of the things that's pretty cool that these giving days do is you'll see that countdown timer, right? That time left to the day. So this is actually an old screenshot, but you can do countdown timers leading up to the event. So it's like, hey, our event is in 4 days, our event's in 5 days. You can have a lot of fun with this. And again, it helps to build up that anticipation. Once your event is going live, again, whether it's a virtual campaign or a giving day or an actual event, like a golf tournament or gala or something like that, get people to go and to update their personal story. Like I said, if it is a peer-to-peer type of an event where they're fundraising for you, if it's a gala that they're going to be attending, ask them to go share that out on social and invite their friends to come along. Try to coach people along the path of sharing with their networks and also sharing their story as to why they care about your organization and why they are excited about your event. Another cool thing that you can do is send out something like a pledge. So if your event is in the future, you can send out a pledge form that simply asks people to pledge their support. Again, in anticipation of the event happening. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the power of the sneezers, the power of taking your true fans and having them help you promote your event or promote your fundraising campaign. For any of those of you on the line here familiar with Seth Godin's work, I'm a big Seth Godin fan, love to read his stuff. And he talks about the sneezers. And the sneezers are the people that are really kind of like early adopters typically, early adopters of a product, early adopters of a service. And so I don't think that this only applies to, products and services in the for-profit space. I think this applies to nonprofits all the same. People who are fans of your work, fans of the programs that you provide and the services that you provide and the impact you're making. And thinking through how you take those fans and those sneezers and have them sneeze their message and your message upon everyone else. So over here, you see it kind of starts with a fan, someone who's a fan or a true fan. Maybe this is someone who works for your organization. Maybe they work for your organization because they have a real close connection to your cause. They're a true fan. Maybe it's a volunteer who's a true fan. Those true fans can spread the word to their network of sneezers, people who are interested. They're maybe not true fans yet, but they're very, very interested in what you're doing. They really like what you do, and they have a voice that could really help impact a lot of other voices. And then there's kind of the everyone else. I'll move my little thing around. I like to refer to them as the sneezed upon, those people who kind of get sneezed on by the sneezers with the message about why they care about your organization, why they want your support, and all of that. So think about who you know and who supports you. Who are your fans? Who are your sneezers? And who could they sneeze upon? Okay, so some other examples here I want to get into about just pre-event tools. We talked about social sharing. We talked about updating the personal page. Here's just a couple of screenshots of examples that I have. This is like an email message that you'd actually get from one of our clients that does a kind of do-it-yourself peer-to-peer campaign. You go and you sign up on their page, and then you get this email, and it kind of, like I said, it coaches you on what to do next. It says, hey, go and manage your page, update your personal story, jumpstart your fundraising, share this link on social. Here's just another kind of the top of the email. We've created a custom page for you. Click on this link, go customize it. And then here again is just an example of, okay, I've signed up to fundraise, and now I've also received this thank you message right away saying, we can't, thank you enough for all of your support. Consider making a gift, that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of that pre-event messaging that's really, really important if you're doing peer-to-peer or, events where people are training for something, or even just getting people excited about another event that they're going to, whether that's maybe they need to brush up on their golf skills before they go to your golf tournament. So here's kind of an example communications timeline rule of thumb that I like to use. I've had this one in my back pocket for a while now, and I think it's still a good, applicable, just general timeline and rule of thumb. If you're thinking about, okay, my event is on this date out in this future, think through, I would say 9 to 10 weeks before the event, again, just as a rule of thumb, doing a soft launch. So not blasting it out to the world that registration is open, but blasting it out to your true fans and potentially your sneezers at that point. And that gives you an opportunity to have some of your all-stars start to fundraise, start to, even if you've got a new system this year versus last year, or maybe it's a brand new event for you and you've never done this before, and you want to give a little bit of time to get some of the kinks worked out and to also get your fundraising thermometers up, doing that initial soft launch with your fans, it could be your board members that you soft launch this out to, is a really great idea to like sort of build up a little bit of the momentum. And then about a week after that, a week to 2 weeks after that, you maybe will have found some kinks. You can fix those, and then you can do your hard launch. And that's out to anyone who's donated in the past 6 months, maybe anyone who's attended one of your events in the past year, that sort of thing. So that's when you're starting to think through, who are the new people on my list that I want to reach out to, who are some of my past participants or event attendees that I want to reach out to. And I'm going to, shout out to the world that the event is open and ready for registration, or it's open and ready for people to start building a DIY fundraising campaign of their own. And then leading up to the event, after that time period, you want to do that regular coaching, a weekly, every other week coaching message to get people kind of, moving along that pathway of incentivizing them, like I said, with milestones that they can reach, with goals that they can set, and all of that good stuff that, again, just kind of helps reinforce and reiterate what you're trying to coach them to do, which typically, if it's an event, you're trying to coach them to fundraise, or you're trying to coach them to complete their foursome, or you're trying to get them to invite more friends to your gala. So I think no matter what kind of event you're doing, there's always some sort of element of coaching that you're wanting to do to the people who are registered to come. Okay, another really great tool you have in your back pocket if you've got sponsors, utilize them as much as possible. They can also be your sneezers and help get your message about your event out to the world. I like this example of a client that we worked with back, I think this actually happened several years ago. The Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, there was a flood, and they got a lot of different big sponsors involved. CBS was involved. And this is an example of where CBS put an embedded donation form right on their homepage saying donate to flood relief. So I know this is sort of like a disaster example, but I wanted to show it because you could have sign up to run an R5K. And getting those sponsors to promote you while you are also promoting them, you're kind of just scratching each other's backs. Sponsors are highly, highly, highly effective for events like a virtual giving day. That's a big part of why they work and why organizations can raise so much money on giving days, is by really, really having strong relationships with sponsors that help give those incentives, like matching dollars, like prizes on the hour and things like that. So sponsors can be really, really integral in improving the performance of an event, whether it is an in-person event and you're having sponsors give things to donate to your gala, or it's a virtual crowdfunding event and you're trying to incentivize people to give on that day based on like a time thing or a matching fund or a prize. Okay, so we're still in the pre-event mode, and that's probably because I think the pre-event mode is one of the most important modes. But we're almost done here, and then we'll get into some tips for during the event and after event. But pre-event mode is still a really, really good time to test and to evolve. Like I said, try to be agile and try to evolve. If you see things that are not working after you launch your registration for your event, be able to change it. Just because you've launched it with the donation levels at in one way doesn't mean that you can't change it. If you feel like halfway along the way it's just not going well, so be able to test, be able to make changes, adjust on the go when possible. Make sure you're using analytics for real-time information, so doing regular reporting. If you've got Google Analytics and things like that set up on your site, you can track traffic to your registration page. Let's say you're running Facebook ads or something like that. Track it and see if that's working, and see if from different advertising and marketing that you're doing, look to see if you're getting spikes. And if you're not, then maybe you need to adjust the call to action, or maybe you need to adjust the messaging around it or something like that. So just really try to think about being agile and being able to adjust on the go. Kelly, are there any questions up to this point?
Not any right now.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about things to do on the day of event. I think a lot of the bulk of the work is pre and post event, but on the day of, there's a lot that you can do to drive engagement and success. If you've got live events, I think some of the most important things to think about are making your check-in process as easy as possible. So if you have the ability to have a system that does, like, let's say you have a run. If you've got a system that does like barcode scanning for check-in on your run, we work with organizations that do that here at Kimbia, and that can make the check-in process a lot easier. I definitely hear that as a pain point for runners that I talk to that say, when I go to events, it always takes me forever to check in and there's this long line. So whatever you can do to digitize that and make it as easy as possible is a really, really good thing. Allow for some sort of on-site donations. Anything from like swipe your credit card on the tablet with like a stripe, all the way down to just like, hey, here's a box for checks and cash. Make on-site donations as easy as possible. Utilize your volunteers, not just around the logistics of the event, but think about recruiting volunteers who are going to be social ambassadors for the day of your event. Because while you need some volunteers to help with check-in and, logistical things like that, you also should be thinking about volunteers that you can recruit to be your social media ambassadors for that day, to be going around and taking videos of your event and pictures and talking to people, and maybe doing some Facebook Live videos and fun things like that throughout the day that can really drive a lot of engagement. We see this to be highly, highly effective with giving days. I've seen some great examples of organizations who have walks that are doing things with Facebook Live now and really capturing those like inspiration and mission moments. And then you can use those videos for later on, and you can use those videos for marketing for the next year. So think about volunteers that you can get to be your social ambassadors. Ask your sponsors to help with that. Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Taylor, I was going to add, I think social ambassadors is such a good point, and I've seen a lot of organizations work with local colleges or universities that are in their area to look for marketing people that are looking for internships and just want that kind of experience, and that's a really great resource.
Yeah, that is a great idea. Yeah, exactly. Local colleges, university, even go to the local high school and see if like one of the sports teams or something like that wants to get involved with you. That's a great way to get people involved in doing that. Very good point, Kelly. Okay, so in terms of virtual events, and this I think also is applicable to live events, if you've got a website up for the event, showing totals. So again, you'll see here, total raised, and showing that like thermometer scroller in any way that you can. That helps people see what's going on and see how the needle is being moved. Social media is huge and vital to these virtual events. Specific hashtags are very important, I think, for driving traffic and engagement for virtual events, but also for live events. I've seen these work really, really well for like galas and things that I've gone to as well, where there's an Instagram hashtag and they have like a sign up at the event that says like, this is the hashtag for the event. Use it. And then it's great because you can go back and you can look at that hashtag and you can see all of the different photos that people posted in Instagram or Twitter for that event. So that's important when it comes to like Instagram and Twitter on social. And then it's not too early to start thanking people on the day of event. So as donations are starting to roll in, as people are maybe starting to finish your race, start thinking about how you can publicly thank them on social. I love this example again of Iowa University because, whoops, I skipped, because they've got this social feed that comes in and it drives all of that just kind of fun and gamification and element of, you know, having people really excited and spreading the word. Kelly, do you have any other thoughts or ideas on this?
No, but just to emphasize the thanking people live, I do think we talked to a university recently that had a giving day, and they said that they thanked everybody, they thanked major donors as they were coming in on social, and I think it really helps the person feel appreciated, and also it gives them a way to spread the message and have other people donate. So it's just a way for them to become sneezers.
Yep, exactly. This is when you want your sneezers to like really get a bad cold. That was a terrible joke. Okay, so let's talk about.
I was laughing with you.
You were laughing. You were just muted. I wonder how. Maybe I should do a poll. How many people were laughing, and how many people were like, "Oh, okay." All right. So let's talk about post-event proven practices, because again, I think that leading up to the event and I think of post-event activity is very, very important. On the day of your event, you've got a lot going on. You've got the event, but I think some of those things that we talked about are really, really effective. So when it comes to post-event, again, you want to show the total and you want to show impact. So not just thinking about the dollars raised or the number of gifts, but the actual impact that those dollars and that those gifts are making. I love this example over here on the right side of my screen of an email from Charity Water. Charity Water is always extremely cutting edge in what they're doing. And I love how they sent this project timeline of the impact that that donation is making, the impact that that donation is having on that particular project. I really like that. Thank you is highly important, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Continuing the giving momentum. So don't just shut down giving because your event is over. Allow people to come back and continue to give a little while after. So that might not be possible if you're doing a giving day and it's like a 24-hour based time period. But if you're doing a peer-to-peer event, like a run, let's say you have people who are doing your run and they're fundraising for you, don't just shut down fundraising the day after the event's over. Give them a little bit more time. You know, maybe they want to send out a thank you to everyone who donated to them. Maybe they want to send out something like, hey, I beat my time. You know, I was trying to run it in 30 minutes and I ran it in 28 or something like that. Would you donate a little bit more to me to show me how proud you are I am of my success, that sort of thing. So allow people time to continue the giving momentum after the event if possible. Use this time to analyze and understand, and start analyzing right after the event, but then also take a little bit of time beyond that to really dig in and analyze. And when you're thinking about your follow-up, think through a long-term nurture plan for people who attended, for people who fundraised for you, for people who donated. You might have gotten a lot of new donors because those sneezers went out and they sneezed upon a bunch of people and they've donated to you. And I think it's really important to think about how to nurture those people in the right way, because they might have come to you through a friend who's affected by your organization, but they themselves might not have a personal connection. So look at those people differently and think through what makes sense for your organization in terms of kind of a long-term nurture plan. And I'll show an example of that. Another good thing to do after your events each year is a post-mortem. And what that is it's really just going through and saying, what went really well, what are we proud of, what didn't go well, what are we not proud of, and what should we change for next year. And I think it's really important to do that very soon after the event while you have it all fresh in your mind, and document it and make sure your whole team has that. so that when it's time again for next year, you can go back and look at the postmortem from the prior year and say, oh yeah, we wrote down last year that we said we never wanted to do X again, and that Y worked really, really well, so let's do that some more. So I think a postmortem right after the event is really important. Ask participants and donors to invite and share their experience with you. This can be in the form of meeting up with them personally. If they're local to your area, ask them for coffee, especially if it's like someone who gave you $1,000 or something like that. Say, hey, can I get you lunch? Can we go have coffee? I want to hear about your experience with the event, your experience as a fundraiser, your experience as a runner in our event, and try to like get them to share that again, because their firsthand perspective might also affect what you put into that kind of post-mortem, post-event follow-up. On more of a mass scale, you can send out a survey. It's a great way to go and survey a lot of people that attended your event and say, hey, what did you like? What didn't you like? And I would say just keep it very, very simple, just a few questions. The longer your survey gets, the more likely people are to not do it at all. So send a survey and keep it simple. Okay, website practices. Here's a good example of a post-giving day website experience where after the day they said thank you. Oops. They put up here, over here, you can see in that left, that oval circle, it kind of shows the amount, how many gifts were made and how many states and how many countries, post-event numbers. You see the leaderboard total up at the very, very top. You see a video of the event. So again, if you've got social ambassadors going out and taking video, it's a great opportunity to put it up on YouTube or Vimeo, and then just embed that into your website so people can see what the event looked like. You can even do a thank you video. And this is also an opportunity to do a call to action. Hey, did you miss the event? You can still donate. And again, that just drives that continued giving momentum. Don't forget other channels of thank you. Obviously, email. You want to send everyone who participated an email that thanks them. But again, think back about segmenting. So if someone participated and didn't fundraise, thank them for participating. And maybe ask them like, hey, you can still go donate if you'd like to donate. If someone was a donor, thank them for their donation, show them the impact. So think through the segments and sending the appropriate message, the appropriate thank you message based on their behavior and interaction with you and your event. People also love to get thanked in public on social media. So if you've got some really amazing sneezers out there that you can thank on social and you can recognize them in a public way, we highly recommend doing that because people they like that recognition. Okay, so let's kind of wrap it up here at the end, talking a little bit about KPIs and data. We talked at the beginning about things that you should ask yourself about what did the data look like last year. So now, after the event, I want to talk about what are the key performance indicators you should really be caring about at a high level. And I found this quote image, I really liked it. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I think that's really true. So think through what you should be caring about, what you should be measuring. If you're using any sort of an online system, you should be able to pull, obviously total revenue from the event, total number of gifts, the average gift. You might need to do that in Excel, the number of donors, the number of participants and registrants. And then you also want to look at the online conversion rate for registration and online conversion rate for donation. That might be something that you have to get a little bit more into the weeds with, looking at like how many people landed on your page and how many people actually donated to get that conversion rate, or how many people landed on the registration page and how many people actually registered. With Cambia reporting, we have some conversion rate reporting that's kind of out of the box, and so that makes that easy to do. If you are using Cambia and you want to learn how to do that, let us know. We'd love to talk to you. Okay, so KPIs by campaign type are important too, because you're going to want to look at some different things based on the different campaign type or the different event type. So again, this is just kind of a high level way to look at it for fundraising participants. Very important metrics to be looking at and reporting on are revenue per participant, the number of gifts, the percentage of participants fundraising. So how many people signed up for your walk and how many people fundraised for your walk. You want to look at how many people were raising over $500, how many were returning participants if you had an event before, and how many people were fundraising more year over year. So those are good year over year metrics as you continue to build upon a program. Those are good things every year to be looking at what your event KPIs look like. For registration, I think it's important to look at things like how many people did like an early bird promo, again, how many people were returning, how many people made an additional gift with their registration. And then you want to look at some things like how much of the revenue came from just registration fees versus how much came from people actually donating and fundraising and that sort of thing. And again, on that one, you want to look at returning attendees, participants, and fundraising performance year over year. Lastly, for giving days, there's a couple of different things, a little bit different for giving days and virtual events. Looking at revenue by fund or competitive element, what I mean by that is, let's say you're a community and there are a lot of different nonprofits in your area that are going to be participating in a giving day. You might want to look at, revenue by nonprofit participating. If you're a university, you might have different colleges within the university. You want to look at that competitive element between which colleges raised more, that sort of thing. So kind of based on what you're doing with your giving day or your virtual event, there's some different things that you might want to look at from that competitive element. If you have different, let's just call them designations as a part of that giving day. Revenue by channel, like online versus offline. Again, percentage making an additional gift with registration, percentage of revenue from registration fees versus additional gifts, and the returning participants and fundraising year over year. So some of them are the same in all of these different campaign types, and some of them are a little bit different based on the type of event that you're doing. And again, this is not everything. This is just kind of some of the highlights to really hit it on and make sure that you are doing. Okay, so wrapping it up, here's just one example of, let's call it an email nurture series to send to people who have just participated with you or fundraised for you. This one is an example specific to like a do-it-yourself peer-to-peer campaign. And initially you might want to like warm up people who maybe donated to you. Hey, thanks so much for your gift. This is the impact. And then maybe follow up shortly a week or 2 weeks after that again with, hey, did you know these are some of the other things that we do? And then you might want to have a third part of that welcome series that gets even a little bit more into your programs. I've seen it go both ways. I think as long as you have one, two-ish messages in your welcome series, that's good. But some organizations do get into even a little bit more depth and detail with a third message in that welcome series before starting to ask for money. So again, the welcome series, it's like the honeymoon period. You're nurturing them, you're thanking them, you're telling them more about what you do, you're making them feel good about the gift. After that, after they're more engaged with you, they're feeling good about the gift, that's when you can then start to kind of, again, convert them to another donation through different types of email marketing and campaigns toward them with stories of impact. Maybe depending on the time of year, it's end of year, or you have some annual fund going on, things like that. Okay. So just for a quick recap, we talked about pre-event planning, and what I want you to take away with you the most from that is to think about building anticipation and to think about really targeting the right people with the right message and getting those sneezers out there and working for you. Then we talked about during the event. Biggest takeaway I want you to think about there is how can you get those sneezers and those social ambassadors to really help you incentivize and start thanking people and keeping the momentum going during the day. And post-event steps, I want you to really take home with you the importance of the thank you and making people feel really, really good about the impact that they're going to be making by their involvement in your event or your giving day or the peer-to-peer program that they're doing. Okay, we've got a little gift for you today. We have an assessment for you. It's actually in the go-to webinar meeting room. I think you should see over here, there is a handout section. If you see over in the right hand of your screen, the handout section, you can download it. If you don't see that and you don't get it here right now, we will email it out to you with the recording in the slides. We'll send you a link to download that as well. So I recommend just going through that and checking yourself. It's a series of questions. It's like 1 or 2 pages, I think. And you can go through and kind of give yourself a general assessment of your online registration and experience for your events. Okay, well, hey, we did it like a boss. I couldn't resist this pug. I thought he was so cute. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you are curious and you want to see a demo of how Kimbia can help you with your events, we love doing events. Online fundraising and events is our jam. So email us at info@kimbia.com. If you have a question for me or you want to follow up about anything that I talked about here today, feel free to shoot me an email at taylor@kimbia.com. And again, if you want a coffee mug, send an email to me and I will send one your way. All right. Well, with that being said, Kelly, are there any other questions on the line that we have?
We don't have any questions, but I wanted to thank you for all of this really helpful information. I feel like you covered a lot and gave a tremendous amount of tips.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you have a great day and I hope you have a great rest of your summer. And please let us know if you've got any tips, you want to chat more about your events and how we can help you. We would love to talk to you. All right. Bye.
Bye.